Welcome to the Verdin Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. Hope everybody's having a good morning. Started this thing off early for you today. We're going to be talking NFL draft, which starts tomorrow. What LSU players could be drafted, when, where, how all this is going to work out. Talk about the Saints mock draft a little bit. I'll give my top 5 mock for the NFL for what it's worth. We'll talk transfer portal, LSU baseball, and some more NIL updates. As per usual, hit the like button, comment if you have any questions, concerns, anything of that nature, and obviously subscribe for more LSU coverage. Let me share this to our Facebook people. Live on YouTube and Facebook, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. Same deal. All right. Let's talk about this NFLSU draft. You got a lot of people that are going to be added to this great thing we call NFLSU. Your LSU alumni moving on, playing football on Sundays, going to make you proud. The first one, obviously, highest pick, Will Campbell. You're expected to see him around pick 4 to the New England Patriots. Barring any last-minute changes, I would say that regardless of if it's a New England Patriots destination or not, you will more than likely not see Will Campbell slide out of the top 5. One of those tackles that I feel like you get once in a blue moon. Obviously, you can go and break down any soundbite. The soundbite where he's saying you're going to be working at Amazon if you're giving up a sack, or all these different focuses that he has. He's definitely a one of a kind type athlete, and you don't get many focuses like that anymore, especially in this age of college football. Everybody's talking about NIL and being self-serving, and Will Campbell has really been the opposite. He's been the tried and true, hardworking college football player that a lot of people have desire for their program. And since he's arrived at LSU, obviously that's been the main takeaway for him. So I'm not surprised that he's going to be the first Tiger taken off the board. And you've been kind of predicting this for a while, years, since damn near his freshman year, right? That he's going to be one of these top 10 lottery picks in the first round, and just it's going to be hard to keep him off the board. And it's going to be exactly the same situation here. So after this, you could see a few guys. You could see a couple of them. This is just my variation and my mock draft of where I think the LSU players will go. The next one I think that potentially get off the board, Mason Taylor. And I think he can even be one of the best tight ends on the board. Now, there's a couple of people that have something to say about that. You got Tyler Warren. Um, you got Colson Loveland from Michigan. You got a couple of other people that could be considered tight end 1 in this class. I think Mason Taylor makes a pretty good argument. I mean, I know he's not going to be one of the more talked about tight ends, and even Adam Schefter himself was talking about 2 tight ends potentially being drafted before the first wide receivers even drafted. It just blows my mind that it's not Mason Taylor. I feel like he showed a lot throughout the combine, obviously throughout the pro day, just throughout his entire career, even just the versatility that he was able to provide. And I think he's got a lot of skills. He's got a lot of things he'll bring to the table. He's not just one type of player. He's not just a receiving tight end, or he's not just a blocking tight end, but he's somebody that's well versed in just about every single area of the offensive scheme. Next player I think could be taken, Braden Swinson. His stock rose completely after the combine. I mean, he turned himself into, I think, a guaranteed top 50 pick. Um, it's hard to keep a pass rusher like that off the board. It's hard to see somebody like that pop up on your radar and just ignore the blip. Because what Braden Swinson was able to do for LSU last year, and LSU's defense, was really revitalize a position that a lot of people were putting pressure on, that a lot of people were demanding answers from, right? Demanding results. And I think Braden Swinson was really your most consistent piece at that position last year. And with what he showed in his shuttle times and his overall athletic ability to be able to differentiate himself from an edge, I think he stood out and made himself look the part at the combine. I'd imagine he'd be the next one. So Will Campbell, Mason Taylor, Braden Swinson. Then I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Emory Jones go in. Obviously, the stock slid a little bit. There's been a couple of questions, but it's still a very high ceiling. It's still one of the very, similar situations to Will Campbell in terms of he had a lot of potential. He comes in freshman year, turns a lot of heads, and makes his presence felt. And I think Emory Jones was a shoe-in for the first round for a long time, kind of confused a lot of people toward the end as the process starts, heating up, that he dropped out of the first round, at least in the mock draft. I think he could be an early second rounder, though. Now, that's pretty much my first and second round predictions. After this point, I think you could get to rounds 3 to 4, maybe even 5. Seeing some of these next guys, Zy Alexander, another one of those athletes with a big ceiling. I think the injury worries are going to be what potentially has teams, pump the brakes a little bit on him. But I think he's trustworthy. I think with what you've seen during his time at LSU, during his time at multiple levels of college football, you've seen the same level of production, the same level of consistency. And I want to point out last year in terms of worrying about injuries, right? Injuries are going to happen. And once they happen, I feel like it's just there's always a permanent mark on you. But with what he was able to do and how he was able to return, and even last year at the beginning of the year, not wondering how healthy he'll be even in his first game back, and he comes out and I think facilitated and provided a huge role that LSU had needed at that point. Regardless of what me saying, all this just means that I think Zay Alexander at 85% is better than a lot of other corners in this draft at 100%. So injury concerns, don't think they need to anchor him down, weigh him down, hurt his chances, ruin his outlook. I think he's still a talented corner. Someone I think that did more than enough though to secure himself as a pick, Josh Williams. Because going into this situation, you're worrying about Josh Williams potentially going undrafted. With what I saw at his pro day, with what I've seen really through how he's handled this entire offseason, I feel like this is the type of player you take a shot on. This is the type of player that if he's on the board and you've got all your, you already picked your first, second, maybe even a third or a fourth rounder, you got another pick coming up, skill position. It's always good to have depth in an area like this, especially with a piece like Josh Williams. We were talking about Mason Taylor being versatile. I think Josh Williams is even more versatile because this is the type of back where you can put him in just about any position and see success. Run blocking, receiving, running the ball, period. Even just being out there and putting some hands on people in the pocket. I think this is a good guy. This is a guy that a lot of people are going to, write off and have written off for a long time. And I don't think that necessarily matters to him. It hasn't mattered. He's always played with a chip on the shoulder. So even if he doesn't get himself a pick and hear his name called, he's obviously, I think, going to punch his ticket into it. But with how his performance went at LSU's pro day, the 40, the vertical, all the different drills that you got to witness him in, I think he made his stock exponentially greater. I think he rose up draft boards, myself included. So then you got guys like Savion Jones, you got guys like Major Burns, Garrett Dellinger, Greg Penn. I could see them, floating around that 5th, 6th-ish spot. It's kind of hard to put grades and draft grades on these like later rounds, later teams, because it's really you got all your needs out of the way at that point. And it's kind of triage based on how the draft order went and who's left on the board. I mean, the draft can 100% change pace based off of even the top 5 picks. That can entirely, filter out how things happen from then on. But my highest pick for NFL LSU, obviously, Will Campbell at 4. I do think the most surprising draft stock climb, I'm going to throw Braden Swinson or Josh Williams out there. I think those are the two guys that have completely turned over the narrative on its head. Let's talk about the Saints mock draft, the Shadur controversy, all this stuff going around. Is a quarterback even worth picking right now for the Saints? It's a valuable question. A lot of people are just automatically assuming that the Saints are going to need a new signal caller, a new person to put under center, right? You hear the Derek Carr murmurs, the injury rumor, the shoulder pain, all this stuff. But is it something that the Saints really have to act on? I mean, you still got someone like Spencer Rattler. Pretty sure you still got someone like Jake Heiner. Do you really want to go in and get Shadur or Jackson Dart or either or? As of right now, at least with the way that the hype has gone through the last 7 days, it's been a roller coaster. You've got Vegas making Shadur to New Orleans minus 100. You've got everybody and their mother pretty much saying it. They're even coming out and talking about it. Coach Prime's talking about the colors and the fit. And you blink your eyes, and now it looks like Shadur Sanders is not even coming to New Orleans and has no chance. But why? Like, what happened? How does this? For one, I feel like nobody knows anything in a sense where these are all just really slim rumors. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out things that teams are, quite frankly, not willing to let be figured out. Half of the information in the NFL draft, I'm not going to say it's misinformation, but it's just smoke screens and a bunch of clouded down details to try to throw people off paths, right? Everybody's trying to make sure that their guy is still on the board when their time comes. And a lot of that has to do with the optics around the meetings or these little tests. I mean, we'll flash it back to C.J. Stroud and him apparently having the worst cognitive test out of any rookie quarterback. And it really didn't mean anything with the way that he was able to succeed. I mean, there's a lot of interesting tactics used, and you always got to wonder if it's that. Now, if the Giants pass, this is pretty much exactly the fate that Shadur is looking at. If the Giants pass on him at 3, then his stock will progressively get worse. A lot of people are saying that if he doesn't get picked in the top 3, they could pretty much see him slide to damn near out the top 20. And I'm very shocked on that. I think Vegas has his over-under line on being drafted at like 17.5. So they're predicting outside of a lottery swing. It's one of those things that just has you wondering why. Like, what happened? What happened to make a potential number one pick that everybody was hyping up just completely, wheels fall off the wagon, and here we are. Cam Ward is the unanimous number one pick, and now Shador could potentially be hanging on the fringe of the end of the first round. It's just like this is why I think the draft is a little hard to keep up with here. But Saints, in my opinion, they could potentially be better off waiting until the second round for a quarterback, right? You got to be safe with that number 9 pick. Just because you got it, don't mean you got to use it on something like that. I know a lot of fans are going to hate to hear this, but I'm just saying, last 12 years, you drafted 9 linemen, whether it be offensive or defensive. You could see in the last 13, a 10th one come through. It's not like the Saints are, locked at every position. They can benefit from a variety of choices, whether it be defensive, whether it be offensive line, even wide receiver, maybe. They need a tight end. They need a lot of different things. With that number 9 pick, it just seems to be like the lineman is probably going to be what's selected right there. However, you never know, though. They could reach. I don't think they should reach and draft a quarterback at that spot, though. I'm not saying unless it's Shador Sanders, because it just kind of seems like I'm giving him a pass. But the Jackson Dart hype always has me confused, right? Now, I'll give Jackson Dart a positive. We've had some negative. Now it's time to give a positive. I'll do the opposite. Jackson Dart, let's flash back to the Georgia game. Goes down with the ankle injury, limps off the field, gets right back on. Doesn't have to take any time, doesn't have to really, just sit around. He's a tough guy. He's one of those that I think you're going to be able to lean on in the NFL. You're obviously going to get banged up, but you're obviously going to have somebody that's resilient, right? You don't want someone that's giving up on you. And I don't think you're going to have that with someone like this. Now, the confusing sides. Maybe I should wait for my mock draft to spill this. Yeah, we'll do that. Let's finish the Saints real quick. But I really think I could see the Saints do the lineman reach again. I think I could see them draft, whether it's probably going to be offensive, but you got the Mason Graham pick floating around, the Michigan defensive tackle. You got a lot of rumors and murmurs, and you went from in 7 days thinking Shador's coming to he's not coming, guaranteed. This could be another one of those situations. By tomorrow, when the draft is really called, the Saints could have 100% 180 and everything flips on their head. The Jackson Dart hype will be very interesting, though. There's other options. There's Tyler Warren, like I said, Mason Graham. You can even reach and say Ted Millen, the wide receiver from Arizona. There's some people that the Saints could potentially select, but hey, we'll leave it up to them. Let's talk about my mock draft. I'll give you the top 5, which quite frankly is the easiest portion of the draft, but I didn't want to go top 10. Felt like we'd be here all day and didn't want to do it. So Cam Ward, number 1 to Titans. This is probably the only lock in the draft. Clear number 1. We've talked about it for a while. I think Cam Ward possesses just about every quality that you would have wanted in an NFL quarterback. Probably could have played NFL football last year before the Miami transfer. But now's his chance to be able to hear his name called. Second pick to the Browns. I'd say Travis Hunter. Could also be Abdul Carter. Really just going to depend on how they're feeling. Now, keep Myles Garrett, so you don't got to really replace anything. And that kind of was one of the biggest questions to watch in Cleveland. And a lot of people thought maybe even quarterback, but not going to go there. Abdul Carter to Giants. I'd imagine that's where that goes. Obviously, some people are waiting to see if Shador Sanders gets his name called in New York. They got too many damn quarterbacks, bro. They got too many. Russell, Jameis. Still got DeVito. You got some names. I don't know if that's going to be a Shador Sanders spot. And I think then the stock really slides, but we'll see. 4th pick to the Patriots. So I'll go Will Campbell. They need a tackle. Talked about Will being a generational talent. It's just one of those pieces that you got to get him while you can. 5th and final pick for a mock draft. We got the Jaguars. And I think you could go 2 very interesting options, both offensive skill, both pieces that I think will be able to bolster Trevor Lawrence's chances. We'll go Ashton Genty, or we'll go Ted McMillan. McMillan's kind of been rising up boards, falling on boards. It's just been the roller coaster of a stock, but that's everybody in the NFL draft. That is literally everybody. There's not a lot of players that have, even Will Campbell ran into an issue with the arm length. And is it 1.5 inches bigger or shorter, or what is it? What is it? We're talking about this much of a measurement, potentially throwing somebody like that off their path. It don't matter who you are, what you do, where you're going. The NFL draft will be a roadblock for a lot of people. It's going to be a lot of moments where people can nitpick things. So it's an interesting thing to remember. Apparently, though, Ashton Jeanty stock, yeah, top 5 pick. I do like that. Didn't expect it. I do like that. Heisman runner-up, very, very impactful player last season. I feel like, his running ability is very underrated. And in the NFL, when the running back position's getting that expensive, yeah, I'd draft one very early. And the crazy part is the running back position, it really could be more expensive. It could be damn near just as much as the quarterback and the wide receiver. You've seen it traditionally drop with the way that the running backs have gotten hurt or just all the different contract negotiation struggles. But then when you see people like Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley arrive at a new destination and just turn up, now you're going to be in a spot where the running backs get that much more valuable. And I think Ashton Jeanty will benefit from that. More draft rumors. Obviously, we talked about Shedeur Sanders stock potentially being outside the top 5, real shot at tanking it. And then you're hearing things like the Giants could be considering other quarterback options, and it really makes you confused. Like, who else are they considering besides Shedeur? They really considering Jackson Dart? I mean, after that, you're throwing hands up. It's Jalen Milroe, Will Howard. Like, how are the Giants considering any other real option? And those are the type of moments where I think make me wonder about the draft and who's giving all this information. But Jackson Dart, a lot of hype behind him. I'm going to compare it to exactly Shedeur Sanders' situation, because if people are just putting grades on quarterbacks and that's what's boosting them and that's what's getting them on mock drafts, if people are saying, hey, Shedeur Sanders #1 and he really was a top 20 pick this whole time and the mock drafts is what boosted the stock, unfortunately, Jackson Dart's probably going to fall under that same umbrella. The public hype and the public perception, I think, sometimes does boost your draft stock, obviously. Now, the whole caveat around Jackson Dart is obviously 2 things. It's going to be, one, the scheme and the Lane Kiffin thing, and everybody's going to wonder if he's going to be able to do that himself. And then the second is just the fact that this quarterback class, I'll be real, it's tough to grade. After Cam Ward, I think every single quarterback is damn near, it's not like they're tied, but they're close. It's very equal. It's hard to differentiate people. Shedeur Sanders obviously has, I'm not going to say the better arm out of everybody else in the class. And then Jackson Dart has the mobility and you got the experience. Jalen Milroe, I feel like, man, his stock completely tanked, especially after the Senior Bowl. You would think that he would have been one of the biggest dual threat quarterbacks in this class. Now you're looking at him being the second or third, probably third, even worse. Got all kind of options here. And that's not the only 2 teams that'll potentially be drafting a quarterback, or 3, even if you throw the Saints in there. You got teams like the Steelers who are looking at that position because they watched both of their quarterbacks depart. But it will be a very interesting draft. I don't know what to expect. All I know is that when the Saints are on the board at number 9, everybody's going to be tuned in, and we will be breaking it down on Friday. So stay tuned. Hopefully they don't have to reach for a quarterback in the first round. They can wait till the second. Let's talk about the transfer portal news. The portal is not closed yet. It's closed for hoops. I don't know if you saw those tweets yesterday at midnight. That is the basketball portal. The football portal closes Friday. And keep in mind, a player can commit after the portal closes. The portal being open is just for you to leave your school, submit your name, do all the proper paperwork. But after that, if the portal closes and you haven't found your new school, you still got time to commit. You're still in the portal. Just wanted to clear that up here. So if anybody has some, they see some commitments, they're not exactly confused. But let's talk about the graphic on the screen. The potential first trade in college football. Let me break it down for you, explain why we're saying that. So UCLA pushed out Joey Aguilar straight up. He just transferred in, and now transferred in from Appalachian State too, all the way to UCLA. And now they're like, you know what, dog? We got somebody else. I don't think his services are needed anymore. So now the destination that lost their quarterback, Tennessee, they get to swap. They get to find their guy. You're in the spring window. You're held to a really shitty situation. You don't know where to look. You don't know who to look for. You're trying a couple of things. You try to pluck somebody off of TCU, allegedly, and it don't work. Now you're in a spot where you'll take what you can get. And if it's the UCLA quarterback who just lost his job because your quarterback arrived, it looks like a trade will happen. So not exactly the best deal, because in a sense like this, if this was a realistic trade, if this was a real life college football trade, there would be more pieces sent to Tennessee with Joey, just because it's not balanced, in my opinion. And I don't care how you look at it. Because in this situation, theoretically, you've got a SEC quarterback going to the Big Ten, and then you've got a quarterback that came from Appalachian State heading into the SEC. There's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be a lot of things that you're going to have to see him get better at. And I'm not the biggest Nico hater. I think Nico, did he have an season? Yeah. I don't think he should have desired more money. I don't think he should have did the whole holdout. All of those things I can agree with. What I can agree with is him not being a good quarterback. I think he'll have a decent career at UCLA. I think the Big Ten's a decent spot for him. Yeah, it's a step down. But in Joey's instance, in Joey's situation, he'll be taking a step up, and quite a step up, a few step up, quite frankly. So I'm not sure if I'm going to exactly say that Tennessee won this trade. You got some people saying it. You got some people peeping the Heisman odds, and Nico's Heisman odds tanking, and Joey's rising, and they're using that as reasoning. That ain't reasoning. One person is playing for the SEC team with the 5th best odds to win their conference, and the other one's playing in the Big Ten school who doesn't even have damn near odds to win that conference. That's why the Heisman odds are where they are. That's not saying anything about individual performances as much as it is team success, where their teams are probably going to finish at the end of the season. Keep that in mind. So good if you're confident. I'm glad you figured it out, Tennessee, but I don't know. I don't know if that is going to work out here. Transfer portal news, those continue. No moves from the Tigers. Roster is pretty much set in stone. Now, there's a good and a bad with that. The good, obviously, is LSU knows exactly where they are. They got all their pieces. They don't have any surprises. The bad is you might have had a spot that you could have addressed. What spot, though? Let's talk about it. I'm going to preface this with saying it ain't safety. It's not safety. I don't think safety is a major concern anymore for LSU. Could it be a minor concern? Maybe. But before the season, we're sitting here saying, number one thing you have to address, safety, safety, safety. I think it's been addressed. I think switching Toviano to that position group has been great. The addition of Tamarcus Cooley has paid dividends. You still got Deshaun Spears. I've liked watching Joel Rogers. They've put Alston Osbury in at the backup star, who I think could see some time there if needed. Jordan Gilbert's still on the squad recovering from injury. You've got guys. I don't even have to keep naming. And also, I mean, the standing for LSU, I think, it's because of the number 2 or number 3 portal class. You don't got to do much. You don't got to keep adding. Some players or some teams are going to have to catch up. I don't think you're going to have to. You're in a situation where you really had a successful offseason. I'm not going to lie. I don't think you just got to keep going back to the well over and over and over. But there are other teams making moves, whether it be the Longhorns or the Georgia Bulldogs. So the SEC's leveling up alongside you. It's not like this is going to be the only team that had a great offseason. I'm not going to lie. So other holes, though. I said it ain't safety. Wouldn't say safety. All right, cool. What is it? I'll say linebacker, and I'll throw a defensive tackle out there, and I'll explain why. Linebacker, everybody's already going to be up in arms. What about Witt? What about Perk? Fantastic players. Probably the best linebacker duo in college football. There, I said it. But you still got to have depth. Keep in mind, they're both returning from injury, right? And it's not saying that they're not going to be 100%. I think they're going to be 110%. I think the minute that they hit the field, they're going to be new players, and they're going to be refreshing LSU's defense. However, it's just the fact that they might return slower. They might need a different type of substitution package. They might need some people to come in for them in a different rotation. I don't know. All I know is that the more depth you have, the better. At cornerback, you've got depth. You've got rotations. You've got pieces that you can plug in and out. Wide receiver on the other side of the ball, same thing. You got a multitude of positions. Offensive line even. You could pick damn near 2 different pairs of tackles if you really, really want to. You don't have that advantage with linebacker. It's a little younger. It's a little greener. Yeah, you got Blake Baker in the room, and yeah, you got Witt and Perk, so I don't think it's going to shine through as much, but everybody would have been a little more alleviated if a linebacker came through in the portal. That's just my opinion. Defensive tackle. I'm going to say that one as well. Now, it's not saying that you don't have talent at defensive tackle. You do. We've already seen 2 minor injuries through camp, though. Sadir Mitchell, Dominic McKinley, those are the type of things that you're going to have to worry about, right? I mean, Kyle Williams just came into this and I think won a lot of people over, especially with his coaching style, with the way that the team is bought in on him, and with the way that you've seen the pressure improve throughout camp. Now, everybody's saying, yeah, it could be the offensive line, and it could. It's a very good reason. But it's regardless of the point. LSU's defensive line is talented this year. So some people are going to be surprised that I say things like that. The trenches get ugly, straight up. You could have some players go down within the first week. You always got to have depth. You always got to have experience. You always got to have pieces that you could throw in the fire. Those would have been the two positions I would have potentially liked LSU to add something in, linebacker and defensive tackle. But hey, I'm good with what you got. Like I said, number 2 or number 3 portal class, there's not many teams around you doing what you're doing. So, with that being said, you're in a good spot. LSU baseball. What the hell happened? What's going on? This is not what you wanted before the biggest SEC series at all. This is the first time LSU was run-ruled at home by a non-SEC opponent. The first time in history, lost to Northwestern State, 13-3. Now, I watched Twitter. I scoured all the reactions, everybody angrily commenting. And I saw an interesting takeaway, and I had to say this on the stream. Somebody was saying, if you can't tinker with your lineup in moments like this on a Tuesday against a non-conference team where really, I'm not going to say it don't matter, but it's not the biggest moment for LSU Tigers. It makes sense. I mean, look, I trust the process with Jay Johnson. You saw what he said. He said, it ain't a good game. I didn't even speak to the team. I didn't have the right words. I'm waiting to talk to him tomorrow. This could be a blessing in disguise. Now, I'm not trying to put lipstick on a pig. I'm just saying if you get embarrassed like this at home before the biggest series, it could be a wake-up call at the most pivotal point rather than just coasting into the series and thinking that, your crab don't stink. But, hey, college baseball got its moments, bro. It was full of them last week for the SEC. You had your number 2 and number 4 seed lose a series at home. I think you dropping a game on a Tuesday is not going to be the end of the world. LSU baseball still very talented, still has an opportunity this weekend versus Tennessee to flex some muscle. It's going to be in the box. Y'all should tune in. We'll be covering it. More on that on Friday. Shout out Chris Hill, man. I had to talk about this on the stream. This is something that nobody wants to really at least talk about in the lens of NIL. NIL, there's a lot of problems with it. I'll agree. There's a lot of things that you could potentially fix, whether it be the amount of times players can portal or just all these different things that some people say ruin college football. Now, this is a moment that I think this is why NIL is exciting. This is why NIL, I think, is very important because it gives athletes like this an ability to give back to their community. And then the next generation of athletes that's coming up is inspired off people like this. It's more exponential and it's honestly a greater chance of the next generation coming through and leveling up with things like this. I feel like these type of moments where you have someone like Chris Hilton go back to his high school, show everybody it's possible, and then give back and help them kind of feel, inspired a little bit. That's what it's all about. Like, obviously, there's some times where kids are going in and they're just going to a school for money and this and that. Chris Hilton is one of those stories that doesn't get talked about enough. Has waited his turn, grinded over and over and over, battled through injuries, has been lower on the depth chart. Now he's finally in a situation where he's the guy. He could be the guy for LSU. And next season, I think, could be a big year. But this is one of those stories, like I said, not getting enough love. Donating a percentage of his NIL deals to Zachary High School Hoops. They just won a state title. He's paying for the championship rings. You got to love the giving back to the community. This is the side, I think, of NIL that don't really get talked about enough. We can't hate on NIL and not show love to things like this because that's exactly the situation that you're in. Whenever you get money like this, the nice people giving it back, bro. As far. Shout out Chris Hill, man. Like I said, going to have a damn good season. LSU got a lot of pieces that you can expect a good year from. Hopefully, LSU as a whole has a good year. But we're going to have to keep being optimistic. We got a lot of time in between now and then. We'll have to fill it up with a lot of decent LSU coverage, obviously. We'll be back Friday at 9 a.m. Appreciate everybody for tuning into the stream. Hope y'all have a good day. Y'all go enjoy the rest of it. This has been the Verdin Verdict, where we bring you sports talk on the go. We are live Friday at 9 a.m. Make sure you are there. On the way out, please hit that thumbs up. It means the world. Y'all enjoy your day.